The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Good evening and welcome to everyone to this stream of something like the Benjamin Dixon Show, something like You Up. It is a combination of all the above. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Special good evening to everyone who's joining me in the chat room live as we speak. I see Meme Cannon is in the chat room. Sugar Booger over on... Sugar Booger is on one of these platforms getting a shout out from Twitter, right? So we're cross-pollinating in the chat room. I love it. Rick Sanchez is in the chat room. Shane Gilreath from Sun Valley, California. Hello to everyone. What's going on, Frankie? Kelly, I want you to know that we are live and we are here and that we are interacting with you. So click that like button as fast as you can. Special thank you to my producers, always having a wonderful show lined up, even though I rarely get to any of it. But they do know, it's a dope show. If I just covered what my producers say cover, it would be a dope show. Just know that much. They always have everything ready for me. That said, I want to jump in to this first clip of some fact checking that took place on Fox News, much to our surprise.
The election facts as we know them right now. Rigged election? Well, your own government, election officials across the country, and voting experts say it's not true. Baseless claims that are inflammatory, designed to undermine your faith in American democracy. Here's the chairman of the federal agency, the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, Ben Hovland.
The reality is this was the most secure election we've ever had, and it was one of the most well-run elections we've ever had. And this is about facts. This is about truth. This is about respecting our democracy, respecting our elections, and focusing on what has really occurred. The American people made their voice heard. And when we spread conspiracy theories, when we don't back that up with facts, it has an impact.
Now, as for the president's claim that Republican observers were blocked from watching hundreds of thousands of votes being counted in Democratic-leaning Philadelphia, well, in case you missed it, here's the top Republican election official in Philadelphia, Philadelphia City Commissioner Al Schmidt, on that with me on Thursday. The president says observers were not allowed in the counting rooms. Is that true?
That's totally untrue.
The president says, quote, bad things happened that our observers were not allowed to see. Is that true?
Absolutely not.
Have you seen any evidence of voter fraud here?
I have not.
And how about the allegations about Dominion voting systems, that they supposedly changed Trump votes to Biden votes? Well, here's part of the company's answer to that allegation. Quote, vote deletion, switching assertions are completely false. Dominion is a nonpartisan U.S. company. Dominion has no ownership relationships with the Pelosi family, Feinstein family, Clinton Global Initiative, Smartmatic, Skytho, or any ties to Venezuela. Dominion works with all U.S. political parties. You know, prosecutors say that any voter or election fraud allegation will be thoroughly investigated. And if the fix were in, if there was wrongdoing, we will know about it. But election officials across the country insist, as of today, there is no evidence of any widespread fraud affecting the outcome of the presidential election, that our precious democracy was not tampered with, and that such baseless and false claims are an insult to the thousands of election officials and workers across the country who we have seen dedicating themselves 24/7 to ensure a fair and free election for all of us.
That was Fox News, ladies and gentlemen, a non-gender conforming individual. That was Fox News basically saying, listen, if we don't have confidence in the truth, what do we have confidence in? If we can't have a baseline, and it's one thing to play this game that Republicans play. Republicans regularly play the game of pushing the envelope of how far they can go, playing this real politique, playing this hard, quote unquote, hard-nosed dog eat dog politics where they're willing to betray every underlying truth They're willing to betray every underlying principle. They're willing to betray their own beliefs. Republicans have pushed the envelope with it, and they're willing to betray their own beliefs in order just to have a cheap political win. And how far will they go with that? Well, that's being tested right now. Will they continue going all the way to the point where they'll destroy this country? Donald Trump will. I don't put it past Donald Trump. Donald Trump still to this day, today, is talking about he won the election. I do not put it past Donald Trump whatsoever, whether or not he's willing to burn this country to the ground for the sake of his ego. He will. The question has always been, how far will Republicans go with them? And Republicans are showing right now they're going pretty damn far. But the question has to be for conservatives, at what point do you step back from the brink and take into consideration that the sky is really blue, the grass is really green, the day is day, and night is night, that there is 2 + 2 = 4, despite the party telling us it is 5. At some point, Fox News had to even tell them, folks, the jig is up. We know part of the conservative strategy over the last 40 years has been to employ a scorched earth approach, where they will break every norm, break every institution, ignore every hypocrisy. They don't care about any of that. That's part of their toolkit. And we know that's what Republicans have been doing up until this point. The question is, are you going to continue doing that if that means the destruction of this country? More precisely, are you going to play this hardball, quote unquote, hardball type politics at a time where your decision to be quiet on Donald Trump not wanting to leave, your decision to just try to, be mealy-mouthed with it and not come out and firmly say, you got to go, your decision is contributing to the destabilization of this country. The question is how far are Republicans going to go? Because we know Donald Trump will go all the way. Let's listen to this next clip.
Thing is, we have had glitches in this. In Michigan, you had thousands of votes that were given to Biden that belonged to Trump. Now, that doesn't mean that there was a nefarious purpose. This is a new software that apparently is vulnerable to human error. And it was rather ubiquitous. It was used in a great number of states, about half of the districts in Michigan. And that's one of the reasons why some of us are saying, let's take a look at this. Let's open it up to make sure that software systems like that function correctly. And if they were vulnerable to human error, that human error didn't occur. Those types of errors can affect a lot of votes.
The president tweeted that out last night.
Yeah, right. He retweeted it. So I looked into it. With that Dominion software, 5 counties in Michigan and Georgia had problems. And the Dominion software was used in 2 of the counties. And in every instance, largely it was human error of a problem, but the software did not affect
See,
the
this
vote
is
count.
Fox News. This is the other side of Fox News, right? So the one half was the first reporter saying there's no errors, there's no fraud. We've taken an objective scientific look at this, and there's been no fraud. And then you get the other side of Fox and Friends are like, oh, well, there's this software called Dominion software that somebody who's on the board of directors is loosely affiliated with this campaign in this way. So you got the other side of Fox News that is giving Republicans what they want, and that is some type of hope that Donald Trump can still win this thing. Donald Trump is sitting back, egging it on because he would 100% take advantage of it. The only real question is how far are Republicans going to let this go? How far are they going to let this go? Dramatic pause intended.
Very much, Mr. President-elect. And I want to kind of piggyback off of that. I want to get your thoughts on the president's tweet over the weekend where he first seemed to acknowledge that you won. Then he said he won't concede. Then he said, I won. How did you interpret that? And at the end of the day, do you want him to concede?
I interpret that as Trumpianism. No change in his modus operandi. And I think the pressure will continue to build. Look, I'm having a lot of meetings with world leaders on the telephone. I cannot get into negotiating with them about things that are going to be done, but they're calling with some degree of enthusiasm. Everyone from the Holy Father to prime ministers across the globe.
Wait.
So we're moving along.
Speaking of the Holy Father, I'm sorry, I'm completely off topic now. He shouldn't have said the Holy Father. Did you guys see the Pope? Right? The Pope being thirsty on Instagram. The Pope liked, let's just say, a scantily clad young lady who looked like she was well above the age of consent, which is absolutely refreshing. The Pope liked her picture on Instagram, and it stayed up for a long time. So I'm sorry. When he talk about that's all I can think about when you talk about the Holy One right now. I want to play a tweet. This is actually weird to say, but I'm going to play a tweet. This is how far some Republicans are willing to go. Listen to this.
We have an election day. It's the first Tuesday in November in America. That's our election day. Until very recently, that was it. You voted on election day. Then they allowed absentee ballots. So people who knew they would not be voting or could not be there to vote physically on election day, or incapacitated and they couldn't get to a polling booth, they would request a ballot. And they would have an absentee ballot, which had to be postmarked prior or arrive prior, either one, whichever the state passed, and be counted as a vote. Now you can vote in many states 6 weeks before Election Day.
I'm sorry. Is he really getting ready to set up here that the only votes that should count are the votes that he can't be saying this. He can't be this stupid, kitty.
Rendering Election Day a meaningless term, right? If you can vote in September and Election Day is November 3rd, it's absurd. It's not Election Day any longer. It's election month or election season, but it's not Election Day. And then the worst, the sending out of tens of millions of ballots to people who never requested them. A friend of mine, his 2 daughters got ballots in California, but 7 years ago, 8 years ago, they moved to Texas. They got 2 ballots in Texas too. Do you think anybody would ever catch them?
Wait. Do you this moron, this very uncomfortably sitting moron, here's the solution for that, bro. Get the camera up above your chest, bro, so you can let it all hang out down here, right? He looks so uncomfortable there. This moron is not only uncomfortable in his seat, but he's also saying, they really think they can get away with anything, don't they? Like, he really thinks that this is, I'm going to rewind it just a little bit. He honestly thinks that this is a rational argument. Listen.
Do you think anybody would ever catch them if they voted both in California and Texas? No.
His logic suggests that this person, this mysterious person that got 2 ballots, one at an old address and then one at their new address, thinks that one, oh, wow, I moved away 8 years ago. It's very possible that I have a ballot at my old address. Let me go to the other side of the country just on the off chance that what's going to happen is that I get there and I'm going to raid somebody's post office box looking for the potential ballot that maybe went out because I used to live at this address 8 years ago. And so I'm going to go across the country, break federal law by going into someone's post office, into their mailbox, and break federal law so that I could vote twice, just so that I could make extra sure that Joe Biden beats Donald Trump. This is what he's suggesting. And he's suggesting that ridiculous and absurd and obscene line of reasoning is the basis upon which we should create law. Let me put myself on the screen. They make the most absurd, ridiculous, and asinine, imaginary, ridiculous, and very unlikely scenarios, and then they look at these scenarios and say, that's what we need to make our laws off of. We need to make our laws off of the very worst boogeyman that we could create in our minds. Because if we can make the laws off of the very worst boogeyman that we could create in our mind, then surely we'll be satisfied, right? Except no, they're never satisfied. Because as soon as you try to compensate for the boogeyman that they're creating, they create a new boogeyman. They have gotten so ridiculous that now they are making arguments that Joe Biden is a socialist, because they were never satisfied with socialism being the boogeyman. And somebody like Joe Biden, who's clearly not a socialist, just so that he can fit nicely into your worldview, he does everything to let you know that he's a capitalist. But because you could never be satisfied in the first place, it wasn't good enough that he was a capitalist. You got to smear him as a socialist anyway. You guys see how they keep moving that goalpost? That's because they need, no matter what, to be able to find a way to withhold your to withhold your right from you, to control the outcome, because they cannot fathom for the life of them that what they are going to do is allow somebody else to run. They never really intended, when they wrote the Constitution, that somebody else would be able to use this exact document to get rights. Was it a possibility? Yeah, it was in the realm of possibilities, but they didn't really think for real that this document was going to have to give rights to those Negroes, to those women, to those non-gender conforming individuals. They wrote this lofty document saying that, that we're going to create a more perfect union, never honestly thinking that meant that white conservative men who have political and economic power in this country are going to have to be on the same playing field as everybody else. That was a little bit more than what they bargained for. It was good, and democracy was good in theory, but not in practice. Because in practice, that meant that the very powerful were going to have to, on occasion, take a sidestep on behalf of the people. And because they just got tired of doing the sidestep, or even the potential of it ever happening in the first place, because they've been fighting this like hell. They have been fighting to not have to actually do something good by the people since the founding of this country. We barely got something in the New Deal. It was a hiccup, and they lost their goddamn minds and ran as far right to the economic paradigm of neoliberalism. They were like, oh, regulations. And then they spent the next 80 years undoing those regulations. That's because they never had the intention of dealing with us in good faith in the first place. When they signed the Constitution, they believed they were signing a document that made it possible for them to maintain power in perpetuity, with the disguise of egalitarianism, with the disguise of democracy. Literally, like, this is not just rhetoric, right? They literally have the Electoral College for that exact purpose, the 3/5 compromise for that exact purpose, to protect the powerful at the time, which were slave-owning white men. And here we are dealing with the same BS, well, after all of them have been in the dead and in the ground. We're still trying to triangulate in 2020 based on the rules that they built to protect slave owners. It's because they never really intended for this to be a more perfect union for everybody. They meant for it to be a more perfect union for slave-owning white men, land-owning white men. And so now that we are actually at the stage in American history where we put all the pretense to the side and say, yes, absolutely, we're creating a world that is more inclusive and that distributes power, both economic power and political power, beyond the halls of white conservative men. the pocketbooks of white conservative men, landowning, the aristocracy, of which some liberal men are a part of. Come on. Let's be real. Let's cut to the core of this thing. If you cut to the core of it, it's not just white conservative Christian men. There is a power structure with people who flirt with that in all of those intersections, right? Maybe you go to the golf club together because you're both men. Maybe you didn't go golfing together, but you ended up at a church at a Bible study because you're both God-fearing men, right? And then maybe all those different places where you could intersect presents opportunities for everyone to benefit from this power structure if you allow yourself to benefit from it both economically and politically. The question has always been, at what point does your benefit come to the detriment of the people? Especially if you're out here running your mouth talking about you want to do something on behalf of the people. But here you are, you made a deal with the same devil. You made a deal with the same capitalistic devil. And the only real question is at what point do you, Mr. Activist, do you, Miss Activist, Miss non-gender conforming individual activist, at what point do you cross that threshold as if in the sense that you're taking from this system so much that it becomes detrimental to the very people that you built your entire career over? See how this type of thinking works its way through our entire society? Our entire society can be unraveled with that type of thinking. The type of thinking saying that I will continue to go further and further because whatever you are suggesting is a threat to me. And let me make it plain. If what you're asking is too expensive for the person on the other side of the table, they are going to lie, cheat, steal, find some kind of way to get out of what you're asking them. If what is required, let me make it very plain. If what is required for a more perfect union, if they actually understood that by writing those words in our founding documents meant that it was going to extend power, both economic and political power, to people that those original aristocrats would never even want to be in the same room with. Truth of the matter is had they known that, would they have signed those documents? Here's the reality. We're dealing with today people who look at the expansion of rights that are inside of the Constitution, the natural evolving expansion of rights. People are turned off by that. They do not want to see the Constitution be applicable to anybody more than who benefits and controls the power structure. That's what originalism is. Originalism is a rejection of the natural evolving nature of the Constitution. They don't want to admit that it's a naturally evolving document because they have been able to literally clog up all of the channels for its development, for its growth, for its amendment process. And just in case you get any fancy idea about trying to add an amendment to the Constitution, guess what? Republicans have spent the last 40 years ensuring that they own all of the state level legislatures. So when it comes down time to get, 3/4 or whatever the percentage is of the state legislatures that's necessary for a constitutional amendment to be ratified, Republicans have made sure I sound like Plies with that hype. Sure. Man, we mess with sure. Y'all got to watch Plies talk politics in that voice. It is like, it's therapeutic, strangely. Republicans have made sure that nothing in this, there will never be another constitutional amendment ratified through the process of the states as a result of state legislatures, because Republicans have made sure that they've cornered off that market. Shame, fool them once, shame on us. Fool them twice, shame on them. They made sure that they were prepared for that. So they are standing in the way of anyone realizing the actual freedoms that the Constitution promised. and the natural evolution of rights. You see, y'all messed up. They shouldn't have signed those documents. They shouldn't have said it if they didn't really mean it. When you said it, you honestly meant all men were created equal. And if you're an originalist, you're going to look at that all men were created equal. And at the core of you, some part of you is always going to yearn for the time when all men were created equal, literally meant all men and only men, because black men certainly aren't men and women aren't men. In our day, that means when we say all men, the only people we mean ain't those poor people, men. It's white landowning men. There are people who claim to be originalists and hide underneath the banner of originalism just so that they can get us back to the day. They can't admit it publicly, but yes, they believe that this country was developed for white Christian men and only white Christian men. And those are the people who are vying for power right now. That's the type. This is not, what I'm saying is not conspiratorial. What I'm saying is not hidden knowledge. What I'm saying is something that you probably knew in the back of your mind. But these are the people, if you put it side by side, this is who's trying to run the country right now. The people who are trying to run the country right now are people who honestly believe that when this country was founded, it was founded in a moment of divinity interacting with humanity, the apotheosis of George Washington. They just think of it as just this divine moment, communion of the Holy Spirit interacting with mankind to give us birth to a country. And how dare we change any of that to expand these rights to include trans women? They look at us like, are you out of your blessed mind? Instead of looking at the Constitution as kind of like a logical argument that is kind of like its own living dialectic that looks at itself based on the people, examines itself based on the people, improves itself based on the people, and continues to have a self-improvement model over time, instead of actually using the mechanisms of the Constitution to develop a more perfect union, which is the standing orders, right? To create a more perfect union. Instead of doing that, what do? What do conservatives do especially? They use every means at their disposal to prevent the self-improvement algorithm at the center of the Constitution. They don't want this country to improve, because if it improves, that by definition takes power from them and distributes it between everybody else. An egalitarian society for them means, well, oppression in their minds, because they have to give up some of their power for us to have parity in power. And they just can't imagine. And here we are at a time in American history where we're fighting back against not only the tokenization of identities, we're fighting back against that. We're fighting back against the tokenization and the weaponization of identity, both by conservatives and liberals. We have to fight back against all that. But we're also fighting back because inclusive of that identity-based construct, because we're fighting against a system that is rooted in identity. Nobody does identity politics better than white folks. Nobody does identity politics better than conservatives. Nobody, literally nobody does identity politics better than conservatives, both in terms of setting the original identity of this country, as well as capitalizing by tokenizing individual identities, hiring people who are non-threatening to white supremacy, hiring a black white supremacist like Candace Owen, hiring a Muslim Islamophobe, people who can do both, people who could be both black as well as be anti-black in their rhetoric, Clarence Thomas, right? Be both woman but anti-woman in their decision-making. Nobody does identity politics better than Republicans. Ask Amy Coney Barrett, right? So not only in terms of building a country completely off of the identity of a single group, all the way down to the fact that right now, today, they are able to get people from every identity to do the bidding of a single identity. Man, I'm telling y'all, worst thing y'all ever could do is let me get some sleep.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
So, yeah, shit's crazy, man. Watch this video.
Right, but I am not Breonna Taylor. This Breonna Taylor was murdered in her bed at night, and she does not have justice. She was murdered by the police. And I just want people to, we have to stretch ourselves and pay attention to what's happening in other parts of the country. But this has been national news for a long time. People have protested in the streets with this name, and it just saddens me that that people in leadership, people that want to be in leadership, don't know the struggles that are happening to black people in this country. And it's just disheartening. And it was hurtful, absolutely hurtful. I didn't hear it once. I didn't hear it twice. I heard it several times. I'm being called, Breonna Taylor today. And, but it's okay, because we'll educate and we'll make sure that people know who she is, what she stood for, that she was an award-winning EMT, in her community, that she's someone who deserves justice right now.
That's something. K-Love, I am curious what you're referring to here. I left you guys hanging. I'm not sure what that's referring to. It's something to be like living on two different planets, right? On one side of the planet, on planet A, you have your reality. Planet B, you have their reality. And what empathy really requires is that we allow our realities to intersect just every now and then. Can you take a few minutes to at least know the highlights of what's happening in my reality? Just get the highlights. I need you to just know who Trayvon Martin is, so that if I put a mask on my face that says Trayvon Martin, you clearly know that I'm not Trayvon Martin enough to know that I must, one, be someone else, but two, Trayvon Martin must be someone important to me. I think it's our inability to just have just the moment, a single moment of reflection on behalf of someone else that is at the core of our rot and our demise in this country. We can't take a damn second to consider someone else's perspective. We can't take a minute to take a step back and say, hey, you know what? Let me just think about this for a second. And then just get the highlights of what's going on in the black community, in the LGBTQ. I mean, at least know Oberfels versus Hodges, and the fact that it's a possibility with the appointment of Amy Coney Barrett that they're going to have the votes necessary to overturn that. At least have the highlight of what that decision did. I'm you just see my wife, my kids, which, doesn't mean anything here nor there. The point is that I'm not in the LGBTQ community, but I have enough moment of reflection on their behalf to at least get the highlights. Can you at least know, not even, can you go beyond Dr. King? Because I was going to say, if I have on Dr. King on my mask, then clearly they're not going to think I'm Dr. King because they killed him. So they can't make that mistake. Oh, man, I'm bugging. I'm just messing with everybody. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. I want to go up and catch this last super chat. Wow, we're only at 40 minutes. Great conversations already. Where's the super chat? Here it is. I love Benjamin P. Dixon and my white Native American lady who loves Ben Dixon, my ex-stepdad, black, and he's a Trump fan. I worry so much. Whew. Trump family members, are a very complicated thing to navigate. Thankfully, I don't have to navigate any in my family that's close enough to reach me. I don't have to replicate that with anyone. I am. I went to a break for a second. Is that what y'all saying? Are y'all thrown off? Are y'all thrown off on YouTube because I threw a commercial out there for a second? I'm just trying to figure out because I don't want to throw people off. Like I got all my little commercial breathers and music, just so I can get a little break here and let the music play. So thumbs up on YouTube if you're getting me live. Thumbs up on YouTube if you're hearing me live. And I wonder how long the delay actually is. Yep. All right. Cool. Thumbs up. There it is. All right, let's keep moving then. That said, we got Breonna Taylor. Can I show you what the opposite side is? Thank you, everybody, for the thumbs up. Here's the opposite side of the equation. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene, QAnon. She's going to Congress, and this is what she said from Georgia, the 14th district, rather. She said, our first session of new member orientation covered COVID in Congress. Mask, mask, mask. I proudly told my freshman class that masks are oppressive. In Georgia, we work out, shop, go to restaurants, and go to work and school without masks. My body, my choice. # free your face. These people are so goddamn stupid. Can we pause and reflect for a hot second here? I just want to reflect on the fact, before I give you the logical fallacies of this, can we just reflect on the fact that it's not deserving of our time? That this individual, this human being, I'm choosing my words extremely carefully, this human being isn't deserving of our time because she's a fucking idiot. Okay? Excuse my language, Ma, I'm sorry, but you got to call a thing a thing. I just want the history of our present to reflect that we understand that just having to explain this is demoralizing to our souls and an insult to intelligent creatures all across the universe. Just having to address this. Because anybody in their reasonable, rational mind who is just peeking in on America from, I don't know, from Mars, would say it sure would be good if they didn't kill themselves off with a pandemic that we beat a couple years ago because we put on masks. Would be good if we didn't get 500,000 people dead from COVID-19, because that means there's about 230,000 people who are alive right now who will not be alive by the time you figure out that it's okay to wear a mask. Asking you to wear a mask is oppressive. That shows you the extent to which you have been a privileged set of children in this country. You selfish, narcissistic, megalomaniac little pricks. It is unbelievable to me that you would be more than happy to see 500,000 to 1 million people die because you didn't want to put on a goddamn mask. You stank ass breath, selfish ass, probably racist ass, good for nothing scum buckets of the deplorable universe. Put on a mask. Be kind to your neighbor with your funky ass breath. Put on a mask and save some lives because it could be someone close to you. But we can't do that because the highest form of oppression is not whatever miseries you pull down on the marginalized communities. Your measure of oppression is how many inconveniences it causes you. Dumbasses. Put on a goddamn video. Mask, not a video.
The United States has topped 11 million confirmed COVID-19 cases less than a week after it passed the 10 million cases milestone. A record 70,000 people are now hospitalized. With the surge affecting every part of the country, Michael Osterholm, a top advisor on President-elect Joe Biden's coronavirus task force, said the U.S. is having, quote, many epidemics. States are rolling out new measures to combat the surge. Wisconsin and Chicago have issued new stay-at-home orders. Vermont's barred all gatherings outside of members of the same household. Washington state has also set strict rules on gatherings outside of household members, limited capacity at restaurants, and prohibited indoor service at gyms, museums, and movie theaters. Utah and North Dakota are the latest states to mandate mask wearing. Meanwhile, in South Dakota, where the COVID-19 death rate is among the worst in the world, Governor Kristi Noem, a close Trump ally, has said she would not enforce a mask mandate even if ordered by future President Joe Biden. A new survey by National Nurses United found hospitals are still failing to provide adequate PPE and workplace protections. Nurses say hospitals are unprepared as the surge is only expected to get worse during the flu season, and the healthcare industry's pursuit of profit is at the center of its failures. Nurses also report mental health struggles related to the pandemic. Meanwhile, North Dakota's Republican Governor Doug Burgum said infected but asymptomatic healthcare workers should still treat COVID-19 patients at hospitals.
Come on. Infected, but I think I owe you all an apology. I think I do. Obviously, I don't. I'm about to say something that's like way out in astro, sitting somewhere by a black hole kind of spacey, loopy stuff. So I don't really mean what I'm getting ready to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. I feel like I owe you an apology because about 3 years ago, I was writing. And I was writing, what could come? I got it in my notes from my journal 3 years ago. Because I felt like there were forces underneath this country that poised us to self-destruct. I felt like there was a break in the logic center of this country, and that no matter how we were going to somehow get on a road to destruction that we were unable to stop because of how we function. A couple years ago, I posited that. I'm like, what kind of disaster could come that because of our politics, because of our media, because of the nature of clickbait, because of the nature of these algorithms, right, that drive you to the next click, that created and helped foster QAnon. Like, it didn't matter what it was, the way our society is structured and the incentives that are at the core of our society put us on a collision course with disaster. And 3 years ago, I sat around wondering, I'm like, I wonder what kind of disaster it could be. I wonder what kind of pandemic it could be, what kind of plague it could be. And I'm just sitting here just daydreaming, like, because it would need to be something that kills you fast enough to make you afraid of it, right? Because our country has demonstrated that it's more than happy to ignore, long-term killers like climate change, or previously when past administrations ignored the science because it wasn't such a quick killer with Ronald Reagan. Right. So it had to be something that would kill us quicker, but it couldn't be something that killed us too quick, because if it killed us too quick, then everybody would be terrified and we all go hide in our house. So it had to be something that killed you soon enough for people to worry about it, but not too soon to shut everybody down automatically. Right. Because if motherfuckers are out here coughing dead, like, if it was that impactful, everybody would have self-quarantined. So how do you destroy America with America's ways? You find something that kills you not quick enough, but quick enough. Not too fast, but quick enough. And then you do something, and I have this on the paper. I said, then it has to be something that we could politicize. Because if we politicize it, then we freeze and we paralyze our ability to respond. If we politicize anything, we paralyze our ability to respond. So it had to be something that could be easily politicized. It had to be something that was rooted in ignorance, because we love ignorance in America, because we're at a stage in American history where we will give platform and voice to ignorance of any type simply because we want to act as though we have a fair and balanced conversation. And because of that, you will put a no-named nobody with no experience on the same platform as a NASA scientist who's telling us that climate change is real. Right? So it had to be a level of stupidity, because nothing motivates this country to think that it is special than the fact that, oh, I'm a moron and I want you to listen to me. And then on the other side, you have other people who are like, well, have you considered what the moron was saying about the issue? We want to be fair and balanced. So it had to be something to kill us quickly, something that we could politicize very easily, something that was wrapped in stupidity, and something that would capitalize on the algorithms that drive our clickbait, that drive our engagement, that drives our profit center, that drives our entire profit motive, right? So if it was something clickable, something that you can trigger these algorithms around, because triggering these algorithms is not particularly difficult. It's just whether or not I feel like doing it today. And so if you got all these, ask my producer, he's like, Ben, this is a good day to do the algorithm trick. And I'm like, I don't really feel like it. I'm just trying to just lay here and contemplate the universe. But now I got to go and get back on stage and, you know what I mean, and strip for the people with these videos so we can make money. Right? But the point is that if you just know how to work this algorithm, which QAnon obviously did, they understood that the nature of our clickbait system, of our algorithms on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, it's all about feeding you that same echo chamber that you can't click out of. They don't care if this is what you really believe. They care about the fact that you just got to click the next one, click the next one, click the next one, click the next one. And before you know it, you are being rewarded for spreading the ignorance that is at the core of our destruction. And because it is at the core of so many of our systems, that greed algorithm, that selfishness and that individualism, all of it is at the core of this country, drove us right into 250,000 people dead from COVID-19 in less than 9 months. And we're getting ready to go in season 2. The second 9 weeks, second 9 months. Second wave, and we're getting ready to go down these same destructive paths because COVID-19 killed us quick enough for us to be afraid, but not quick enough for us to shut down. COVID-19 was easily politicized. COVID-19 had an unbelievable intersection with the ignorance of the society. I mean, they're still looking for, these people are really looking for a mark of the beast in their surgical mask. They don't want to put on a mask because they think it's the mark of the beast. So anyway, I think I owe you guys an apology because I actually wrote this script. I wrote that script but I did not have the solution. I didn't have what it was. And there it was. All the components is exactly what we're living out right now. We're living out the ignorance. And it's not as though it was magical, right? I think it's really simple. If you can look at the fault lines at the core of this country, it's just a stress test. You know, maybe I was ahead of the curve, and so it wasn't like I wasn't writing the story, but maybe I just looked at America's flaws and say these are really good places where we can exploit America, right? We can exploit America very easily based on the appeal to ignorance. I don't know what it is about human nature, but there's something about ignorance that sells in every culture. Y'all got just as many housewives of certain county as white folks do as black folks. right? It's something about ignorance. It's something about that fight video. Like, I know I'm not supposed to be sharing that fight video, but goddamn, did you see how hard she hit him? Did you see him? Like, we are drawn to the ignorance. Like, I know I shouldn't be looking at this twerk video. Like, but Twitter, I mean, Instagram, they put it in my algorithm. It had to be something that could weaponize these algorithms against us. And that's exactly what QAnon did. Hell, that's how Donald Trump became president. World Star. I know I wasn't supposed to watch that many World Stars. You know, my favorite genre of video is when dudes make the mistake of thinking because somebody is gay that they can't fight. And man, those brothers, or however they identify, they just sit back there and wait. They just wait. And this dude who think that this brother or this sister, Nunja, however they identify, they think this person cannot fight. And they miss. And then sis come around that corner and just break their whole jaw. Like their whole life fell before. They didn't flash. Their whole jaw just went down to the ground. Those are my favorite fight videos to watch right now. We all are drawn to some level of ignorance. The point is that we are all drawn to some level of ignorance. And because of that, one of the pathogens that we were not prepared for with COVID-19 was the pathogen of ignorance, right? That the pathogen of hyper politics, where we're willing. You know what hyper partisan is? Like I think the extreme outlier, like of the definition. If you could take a million definitions of hyper partisan, on the far extreme, I think you have to put "I'm willing to die to own the other party." I don't think that there's really anything that you could say further to the extreme of, in terms of hyperpartisanship, I'm willing to die to own the libs. That's literally where the Republican Party is right now. Okay, so no matter how you try to define who's far left and who's far right, the fact that these clowns were willing to go to these pandemic cluster, orgies of different pandemics, right? They got the regular flu in there now, and they got that regular flu intersecting with swine flu that was still left over, intersecting with COVID-19. Like, this is a big, Woodstock of viruses. And they're going to own the libs. Herman Cain died to own the libs. Rest in peace, big homie. If you want to talk about extremes in hyperpartisanship, I think saying that you're willing to die to own the libs is quite literally the furthest extreme that you can have. And we are actively fighting against that party, not just that individual, that party. And that's the score. That's like what you got to understand you're dealing with when you're dealing with people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. You're dealing with people who have been infected with the ignorance virus. They have been infected with the hyperpartisan virus. They have been infected with the bad faith virus. And the hyperpartisan virus to the point where they're willing to die to own the libs. I think we're very foolish if we don't really understand the depth of their commitment. Marjorie Taylor Greene is willing to die to prove that you're not a good faith actor. You are, in fact, a tool, the tool of a cabal of blood-drinking, pedophilic, Satan-worshiping billionaires and technocrats who switch out the organs of young babies and put it in their blood so that they can live eternally. Not only does she believe that, but she's willing to die to prove it. Yeah, the show's not over, but I'm going to take a breather because that shit, when you think about it in the perspective of how committed they are to their stupidity, you should govern yourself accordingly.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
To do this this patron party and then read some comments from patrons and super chats and whatnot and what have you. I've just got to locate it in my folder, and let's do that patron party. Oh yeah.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and get twice the content and unfiltered interviews without any of the commercial interruptions.
And here we go. At this point in every single episode, I'd like to take a minute to thank the people who make the show possible, our patrons. Very special welcome to our new Twitch subs. Texans for subscribing at Tier 1. Marty Mouse for subscribing at Tier 1. Satan Worshipper for subscribing with Prime. LG Super for subscribing with Tier 1. Oh, wait a minute. Welcome to all of our new patrons. Kathleen P, Valerie B, Kat C, Tina R, Phantom Mastermind, and Marcelli. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family by going to patreon.com/The BPD Show, where you get twice the content, well, not anymore, but uncut, unfiltered interviews, none of the commercial interruptions, and you give me the ability to speak power into the powerless, whether the powerful like it or not. Oh.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Yeah.
Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Yeah. Check me out. All right. We make sure that we give priority to patrons' questions. You can send them directly to us on Patreon, and we ask that you send a format that is short enough for me to read on air, but take some liberties because you got all the email space of a patron. And then Twitch. Any comments that come over there, the paid comments over there from Twitch, as well as Super Chat. So let's start answering some questions from our patrons and Twitch subscribers and Super Chatters. Here we go. Comrade V Taco said on Twitch, how much power would Manchin and Ossoff have? Still want Republicans out, but we got to be clear and ready to act as always. I think they would unfortunately have too much power and try to hold the Democratic Party hostage, but let's handle one hostage situation at a time. Let's get rid of Republicans who have been holding this country hostage, and then we'll deal with the new hostage takers like Joe Manchin, who will side with Republicans. Andy from Ohio said, I don't mind at all when you wear the same shirt. It helps me to mentally categorize the videos. There you go. Thank you. Durable AC. I know he's been counting on me to mess it up every day because I have messed it up every day. But Durable AC says, I have two jobs now, one at Best Buy and the other one at the UPS. So I'm really out here trying my best, but I really have no choice but to work. And that's a damn shame, man. They're putting so many people in the situation where they're having to put their lives on the line just to survive. It's a damn shame. Andy from Ohio said, my sister is a bartender and makes me feel like an idiot whenever I wear a mask. Well, they should be glad you're wearing a mask. Crazy Hawaiian MPA said, please don't chance getting COVID. My husband is an essential worker because apparently planes have to fly even during a pandemic. He was exposed to a fellow coworker for less than 15 minutes. Wow. Before the husband even had symptoms, my entire household contracted it. And I just last week got my sense of smell and taste back. Tested positive April 1st. Crazy Hawaiian and PA, we're sending out love and energy for you to have a full recovery. Durable AC said, I'm the only one in my family taking COVID-19 seriously and trying to keep my old parents and my brother from doing risky things, especially living in Texas, has been a task. On top of just graduating and finding work, this is a way This is way too tiring. Yeah. Diabetic 86 says, well, also part of Fox is holding its audience demands that they try and transition from the celebrity joke that Trump was. Oh, it just moved. That Trump is about to become, and the new anti-liberal message they'll need during the Biden administration. Okay, let me read that one more time. The part of Fox holding on to its audience demands that they try to transition from the celebrity joke that Trump is about to become, and the new anti-liberal. That's an interesting comment. I agree with it, but there are layers to that comment. Andy from Ohio said, Ben, by the way, you're looking comfy in your hoodie tonight. Absolutely. Well, I can't because my cable is there. So anyway, facts only exist. This is from Diabetic 86. Facts only exist in the past, probabilities in the present, and possibilities in the future. Progress is a narrative. We could, all of humanity and more, move backwards just as easily now as ever before. Can we also mention how we plagiarized the Constitution from Iroquois nations and then just removed all of the power that they gave the women in their matrilineal? You got me on that one. Matrilineal culture. Wow, got to go up my vocabulary. Necro Merlin said, if Trump does run again, is he going to be primaried in 2024? Is this Trump's party now, for better, for worse? It'll be interesting to see how this unfolds. Andy from Ohio said, thank you so much for mentioning the LGBTQ plus frequently as LGBTQI. I appreciate you. Much love. Nathan Barrica says, sorry, Benjamin, climate chaos is here now, not in the future. It's happening now. Only 11 years left to prevent irreversible damage from climate change. Speakers warned during General Assembly high-level meeting. The meeting, held pursuant to General Assembly Resolution 72-19, will run through the 29th of March with a focus on protecting the protection of the global climate for present and future generations in the context of the economic, social, and environmental dimensions of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. There you are. All right. New Twitch subs, we call those out. Thank you for all those comments and to everyone. Okay, great. Make sure you have a third. Friday is the Ask Me Anything. I want to put that on there. Friday night is when we do a Zoom call with all of our subs and all of our patrons. We could get up to 500 people in there and we just go through and you can ask a question or you don't have to. Now, normally when we get together, we party. But at the end of the party, we always spend like an hour talking. So I said, you know what? Let's split this up. Let's do once a month for patrons and subscribers. We do a party. The first Friday of the month is happy hour. We're going to do nothing but dance. We're going to dance the whole night till like 1 a.m. and then we're going to call it a night. And then on the third Friday of every month, we're going to do a Zoom where you could join in. I could see your face, interact with you directly, and ask your question. And we have just a really big, robust political conversation. All right. So that's taking place. To ask any question, it's not like a ask me anything because it's not going to be about me personally. It's going to be about the political topic. So ask any question this Friday night. Starting at about 9 p.m. and it's a vibe. Like still bring, we won't have the DJ, but I might still have a little soft music, just enough for us to have the background music. Bring your drinks, bring your snacks, and let's just sit here and talk about politics. All right. Boom, boom. Yeah. I feel like there's a whole nother, super chats. Let me get some super chats in there. I feel like there's a whole nother category of people that I'm slipping on. Let's get these super chats. I think I got a lot of them on the screen already. I feel like there should just be some music here for a second, right? What do you think? I don't have any music though. And there you go. Got no music. All right, let's keep going. Misty Bowers, Dragon Squad representing. Thank you all for all you do. I wait all day to hear your show. You uplift me and make me think, and I appreciate that. Misty Bowers, thank you. More than anything else, I want you all to think beyond what I'm saying. I want us to be so connected that when I pause, you can hear my argument still going in your mind. So if I make you think, that's far more important than making you think I'm right. That's a hell of a sentence, boy. I tell you, I give y'all this stuff for free. I see why so many of you guys hang out. I would watch my show. I would watch my show if I wasn't on the air. Somebody else was doing it. I would want to watch it. Nikki Deere said, I can't afford a chat big enough, but I left a long, feel very important 2-part comment on your video about the Georgia runoff races. Please read love. Okay, we will track that down and we'll take it in. Thank you for doing it. Every super chat counts. Andy Capon said, hello, Ben. I'm glad I'm with you and this amazing community tonight. Oh, and not for nothing, but I was reminded this evening how smooth your intro was. Hey, we'll play the intro a little bit before we leave. Anybody from Miami, smooth jazz with cues. What was the show in Miami? I can't think of it. Anyway, the moment's gone. It's gone. Forget about it. It's gone. Timothy Close said, hey, Ben, I said this the other day, but you were talking to Miss Azor. I asked about your book, God is Not a Republican, because I'm thinking of getting us a quick summary. Yeah, so it's very, I learned my lesson to not write books based on a political cycle, because all of the general, universal information that you put in there is always sullied by the fact that you're talking about the 2012 election. So the book is really good if you could take it out of like all the references to the 2012 election. So when you write a book, don't ever time it based on the election. All the principles hold up, but it's really about and it really kind of shows you how ahead of the game I was in terms of these evangelical voters, right? I think I really pushed the envelope in terms of challenging all their assumptions, all of their arguments, all of their rationale, both constitutionally as well as biblically. And I felt like it was important to show people both based on the Constitution why they are wrong, but also the Bible why they are wrong. It may not be relevant to atheists to understand the biblical explanation of why conservatives are dead ass wrong. But it is helpful for other Christians to be able to say, okay, not only based on the Constitution is this usage of religion as a political tool for power wrong based on the Constitution, but also based on the Bible, it's also wrong. And then I flipped it and I started talking about the economics of it. And I said, now I can clearly make an economic justice argument based on morality and based on the Bible. Like, I can show America, if you really want to be a God-fearing nation, this is where you should put your money. Not war, feed the poor. Not war, make sure there's no such thing as homeless. Not war, make sure everyone is housed, clothed, has a doctor. If you really want to be Christian, but because I like to be logically consistent and not hypocritical, I said, I'm not going to make that moral argument. Here's just the economic good faith actions of a rational actor. It's just in our best economic interest. You could argue it based on capitalism that what we're doing is stupid. So I separated my arguments for economic justice. I separated it from the moral arguments because, well, I don't want them morally arguing about sexuality. I don't want us morally arguing about economic justice. Now, I will do it all day, every day. All right, next. Northern Man just sent in the super chat. Thank you for that. Andy Capon said, this is an amazing political science lecture. Thanks, Ben. My pleasure. I don't like to think of myself as a political scientist, but I've spent a lot of time in the halls of academia trying to become one. And I am a political scientist at this commentary game. Moni Luz 78 said, I love Benjamin P. Dixon and I'm a white Native American lady who loves Ben Dixon, my ex-stepdad, black, and he's a Trump fan. I worry so much. Yeah, I agree. T. Michelle Johnson say, hey, Mr. Dixon, you make it hard to grade papers, LOL, but I must hear what you have to say, so tell it. Hey, appreciate that. Don't grade them papers. Give everybody an 8. No. Now, what you should do is weed out all of the conservatives and fail them. I just did that so somebody can chop it up. John Coleman, we all know I'm joking. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Simmons 8519 said, it doesn't matter if she's stupid anymore. She has the power to affect our lives for the worse. Exactly. Which is why it's like, unfortunately, we have to make an argument against someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene or whatever her name was. Jermaine Lewis, thank you for the super chat. Stygian Stilettos Gamer says, same people who saw no problem banning black men for sagging. Yep. Misty Bauer sent in another 15 saying people who don't wear masks should have to sign a waiver that says if they get sick, then waive treatment. And if anyone gets sick because they didn't wear a mask, jail time is punishment. Right. Because that's what it is. I hate the intentional obtuseness of it. They know full damn well that mask isn't protecting them. They know that mask is protecting someone else. And so they go into other scenarios, surroundings with someone. It is the most sadistic example of the tragedy of the commons. The tragedy of the commons is the Harvard thought experiment that really kind of try to put a damper on the idea of socialism, because without like self-interest incentives, people don't take care of the property, right? People spoil away. They waste the resources because it's not tied to them directly. They didn't spend the money to, right? Never mind the logical fallacy there, because the money that's being spent to keep up the commons is taxpayer dollars. So we are paying for it, but never mind that. The argument is that if people don't have a financial interest in something, then they don't have the structural incentives to rationally take care of the commons. That's why they call it the tragedy of the commons. What we're dealing with in America is a system of tragedy of the commons that places at the core of what we do in this country. It believes that people will reject doing something for the collective good if it comes at their own personal expense. And the collective good right now is screaming out for people to make a simple act that is not for their personal good, except for to the extent that it works together in collective good. In other words, I went all that way to say that people who refuse to wear a mask is the most sadistic example of the tragedy of the commons, because it's sadistic because you know that your mask is not protecting you. You know your mask is protecting someone else. And because if that other person is taking care of their responsibility, that means you don't have to. You could just take off your mask and you'll be fine, but you would have infected that person who did the right thing to take care of you. It is the most sadistic example of the tragedy of the commons. Because the common in this example is not common area, common land, common resources. It's the commonality of life, being able to live. And what's being wasted because they don't see any personal incentive beyond the collective good. We're dealing with a bunch of sociopaths who think, well, I can take off my mask and I'm going to be okay. Misty said, what makes me mad are people who ask them to wear Halloween mask or KK mask on, but so ass backwards. Absolutely. Moni Lou said, Benjamin, can you give me info on how to connect my ex-stepdad? He loves Trump and I love him. My stepdad is so much, but I disagree with him on Trump, but he is full on Trump. It scares me. My question has to be, is there anything that he loves more than Trump? Like, it could even be ancient aliens. Like, if he loves ancient aliens, I could walk him back. But if Trump is it, if like Trump is everything, then I've got nothing for him. I mean, I don't know how. I don't know how it would. I don't know how that works. Give me anything except for a person who, and I mean this, like a person who has resolved to enjoying the cruelty of Donald Trump. I think the definition of a deplorable is someone who has said in themselves that they are okay with seeking pleasure through Donald Trump's cruelty. It's got to draw a line somewhere. That's got to be the line. And if that's at the core of your loved one, I don't know that they are redeemable. They're deplorable. But if there's like any glimmer of joy that they get out of something besides Donald Trump, in other words, it's got to be something that they won't trump in their mind on behalf of Donald Trump. So find some common ground. Goku, just saying, says Benjamin Dixon for press secretary. Preach. Lowry Cuthbert sent a super chat. Lee Cow said the video of Richard Spencer getting pop in the face is a classic. Yeah. Talking about like stuff that we shouldn't get pleasure out of, but we do. Like, I think I've seen that video of Richard Spencer getting his face smashed at least 1,000 times. Peter Low Frequency said maybe we could be serious if COVID was killing people with the horrific seizures within 48 hours of showing symptoms like in the 2011 film Contagion. COVID can't keep up with this news cycle, right? It's just not, and then I want to be sure, like, it could be just the sanitized version of what we're seeing, right? The hospitals aren't going to release these videos of people suffocating to death. That, the last few seconds of someone gasping for air, I'm sure we have plenty of examples of this, but it'll never make it to television. And so we don't even have a full understanding of how brutal COVID-19 really is. All we have is the fact that people just don't care. The fact that people just don't care. That they could take one simple step and save hundreds of thousands of lives. Nico, thank you for the super chat. I've been keeping your spirits up. Y'all keep my spirits up too, though, for real. A818 Laker fan. A customer called my company to complain that I wouldn't take my mask off. She was a Trumper, and it made her mad, and insisted on wearing that. I insisted on wearing it. It's just it was so designed perfectly to destroy us. And here's the opposite side of it, right? For us to overcome it, it's going to require that we overcome some of our fundamental problems in this country. So let's look at it that way. While COVID-19 is uniquely designed to destroy us because of our ignorance and our selfishness and our individualism and our reward structure in this country, it's perfectly designed to destroy us. Imagine what we can accomplish if we overcome those hurdles. K-Love said, good night, Ben. I'll be catching up in the morning. 3 acorns up. Appreciate it. Q-Ball, 9-ball. GQ 9-ball said, the very people complaining about wearing masks and shutdowns are the very people dragging out the need for masks and shutdown. Sharon Middleton said, preach on. Well, looks like we did what we got to do. Let's get that super chat. What's that thing called? Y'all know what I'm trying to tell you. That raid. Let's get that raid going. Appreciate you, Juliet Damaso. Appreciate you. You got a whole lot of reverb. I mean, it's kind of how I'm projecting my voice. It's like hitting the ceiling. So, but if I bring it in here, it's a little bit more. You still got it. So it's a big space. Just going to read your comments while I wait on the raid. Let me know who we are raiding. I'm going to forget more music. You love the intro. Thank you, Stephanie. Quiet Storm. God, Teddy Cruz. Night Storm. Quiet Storm on Hot 105. I knew Corrine had to do. Some Keith Sweat music. Lord. Nobody. No, we're good. Somebody said, you're so humble, Ben. Just kidding. I am weird. That's I could agree to that. You can raid Bad Bunny. Okay, I'll leave that up to you guys. Send them all of our love. K Swifty, it looks like it's going to be. Just going to keep an eye. And you know what? Hang on while I do that. I always forget. One last check before the end of the night. I want to take a look at 50 messages. Dear God. Okay, that's all from my family. Okay, good. I thought maybe it was from my from my producers. Let me just go check in our producers chat real quick. Okay, done. Been breaking for New Time to stuff. Okay, David, you gave me that breaking news. Thank you, and we can pull that back tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to talk about Donald Trump's threat of war with Iraq, or with Iran rather. We already broke everything to break in Iraq. So we'll cover that tomorrow. Keep your eyes open and on the news. And when you can be kind, be kind. When you can't, take no prisoners. Take care, everybody.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.